Good afternoon and welcome to the latest Ivors Academy Youth Network Presents webinar. I'm really delighted to be able to continue our series of Creators Conversations and have the opportunity to feature members of our newly established Ivors Academy Youth Network Council. As the title suggests, these webinar sessions are a relaxed and informal conversation between creators, revealing insights into the creative talents of our Youth Network Council members and highlighting key music industry issues which they are passionate about. The conversation this afternoon is, of course, an introduction to our newly appointed Ivors Academy directors, the singer-songwriters Hope Winter and Imogen Williams. In addition to their roles on the board of the Ivors Academy, Hope and Imogen have also been appointed as co-chairs of the Youth Network Council. They are a direct link for our young creator community in the UK, straight to the top of the Academy. In the host chair this afternoon is the Ivors Academy's own chair, Crispin, who is well known to everyone tuning in today. Crispin has been chair of the Ivors Academy, formerly BASCA, since 2016 and has held several prominent directorships throughout the music business in the UK. He is a multi-platinum selling songwriter, record producer and music consultant. But enough about him. I'm delighted to welcome our artists this afternoon, Hope Winter and Imogen Williams. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi guys.
Hello, welcome everybody.
Hello.
Nice to see you all in a 2D way. Thanks, Wes, for that fantastic introduction. And it's a strange experience doing these webinars because it would be, I'm used to performing in front of an audience, but this just rather reminds me of what Winston Churchill used to say about when people used to say, "Are you not terrified of speaking to the entire nation when the war?" And he said, "I'm not speaking to the entire nation. I'm speaking to 3 or 4 people huddled around a radio." Mm-hmm. So now we have to try and keep that in your mind. It was always something that I try and remember when I was ever terrified about speaking on the radio or something like that. I'm so thrilled to be here and have this opportunity and to introduce the amazing Imogen and the amazing Hope, and to thank Wes so much for everything that you've done to set up the Ivors Youth Network. It's been an extraordinary experience. We were, as an organisation, I think that it's absolutely critical that we hear the input from the next generation of writers. Considering myself kind of the past generation of writers is a strange and painful experience, but it's the truth. And we need, as an organisation, part of the joy of the Ivors is about making the world a better place for people coming into the business and people just starting out on what will hopefully be long careers. But long careers are very difficult things to have in the music industry, and possibly more difficult now than ever as music has become somehow more fleeting. People, it's everywhere, it's ubiquitous. You hear the sound of bird song in the toilets of motorway service stations, and then you hear piped music in every form, but somehow there seems to be a kind of lack of engagement, and I know that we all as writers are struggling to create some kind of communication or communion with our creativity that reaches out and reaches beyond just the sound of hairdressers, the sound of laughter in the background of hairdressers, which is, I mean, I love the sound of laughter in the background of hairdressers, and I've spent a good deal of my time trying to come up with decent laughter in the background of hairdressers. But actually, what we all want to do is create something that reaches beyond language and reaches beyond words, because that's what music is about. It's no accident that music is only a couple of letters away from magic. I don't think it's it's the highest form of art that there is. It's the form of art that all other art aspires to being. It has no shape, no form, no function. The whole point but it is the fact that it has no shape, no form, no function that has put us into a quandary at the moment, because music is essentially ethereal. And music used to be kind of trapped in pieces of plastic and sold in the form of vinyl or tapes or CDs, but it's now free. It's in the ethers. And so to become the next generation of musicians and writers and music creators that will have to navigate through a situation where music is not trapped in anything, where music is just exists in its purest form, really, just as a piece of music, is something that I'm not going to have to struggle with, but all of you are going to have to work out how to make successful livings and careers in that. And I have to say that we made a conscious decision to include an under 25 member of the board on the Ivors board, because we knew we had to have that input. And we interviewed a lot of people, all of whom were superb, and all of whom I understand, or a lot of whom I understand and hope certainly are going to go into the Youth Council. And I'm incredibly excited about the Youth Council. But there were, we interviewed a few people, and we interviewed Imogen and Hope, and we were so dumbstruck by the brilliance of both of them that we've invited them both to become directors and to share the position, which has actually been a fantastically beneficial thing for the board. And all of the fellows of the board, all of my fellows on the board are so invigorated by having Imogen and Hope's input. I'm gonna now, shall I take it alphabetically? Shall I ask Hope to introduce herself first of all?
Oh, Crispin, just before we start the conversation, Hope and Imogen, I just want to let our audience know that there's a Q&A at the end of our session. And I would encourage all of you who are watching and listening to send in your questions for Hope, Imogen and Crispin via our Q&A function on the screens. So now over to you, or back to Hope.
Yeah, shall I? Hope, will you introduce yourself and say where you're from and what your music's about? And you know, hopefully everyone's got a copy of your fabulous lyrics and fabulous turn of phrase, and the same with Imogen, because we're going to hear a couple of tracks from each of you, and both of you not only are superb directors, but you're exquisite musicians too, in very different ways. So Hope.
Thank you, Crispin. What an intro. Yes, my name's Hope Winter. I'm a 20-year-old singer-songwriter from just outside London, St Albans. I've loved music since I was really young. I was sort of picked up by a local indie label when I was 13, and a few really, really lovely working musician guys. And sort of been gigging since then. I've released a couple of EPs. A couple of years ago, I became a teacher as well, for kids, which I've loved. And yeah, just really, really thrilled to be on the board, and it's just great to be given a position where we can start making changes that we really care about. And it's been so lovely sharing the position with Imogen as well. So yeah, just very happy to be here, and thank you.
Thanks so much, Hope. Imogen, will you tell people who you are and what you're about in no less than 5 minutes?
Hello, I'm Imogen. Firstly, I just want to say I'm so thankful for having Hope in this with me. Yeah, I do feel, in a good way, out of my depth. This is something that I've never really done before. Hugely passionate about a lot of things, but never really had the opportunity to exercise my voice in that realm. So I am hugely excited and feel very privileged to be in this position. I'm very thankful to have the company. So I'm from Newcastle. I grew up there, started making music there around the age of, I don't know, we all start singing and stuff when we're about 2, don't we? But I started kind of writing my own stuff around the age of 14, 15. The scene there is incredibly loyal and encouraging, so I was never short of that, which is, I recognise I'm really lucky to have that. And then when I was 18, I moved down to London to study the popular music course at Goldsmiths. And that was incredibly eye-opening, because not only was I kind of studying what I was passionate about, you know, and music in its like socio-political context too, I was also made aware of the industry and how it works. I wasn't really aware of that before. I kind of was naive to the idea that you just sing and you record it and you put it on SoundCloud and, you know, you get picked up. I had a lot of kind of old men in the Newcastle scene saying, you'll hit the big time, you'll make it onto the big stage, and I believed that. So yeah, coming down to London kind of put everything into perspective. And it's been 5 years now, and I've been in the industry that time. I've got management, I've been kind of touted around labels and stuff, and just really kind of tried my hand at how the industry works, whilst also building up momentum to get quite angry at how the industry works. So yeah, that's me basically. I'm sure we'll go on to where my passions lie later on, but I'm hugely passionate about the accessibility of music for all, especially in terms of disability, because I myself define as disabled. So yeah, I'm just hugely happy to be here, and I'm really ready to shake it up.
I mean, I think there was something that you said there about how coming into the industry and then working out how the industry works. I think almost the Ivors job at the moment is to question whether the industry does work. That's the big question. There is, I mean, we've been running a campaign called Fix Streaming, because I think we've reached a point, and COVID has focused everyone's attention on the fact that, you know, we're all musicians and we're all creators, and we would normally be in the studio focusing correctly on writing a great bit of music or producing a great bit of music, or, you know, in the back of a van traveling to a gig, focusing on the performance. But you know, unfortunately for, you know, nowadays I think all musicians have to, boring as it may seem, have to have a complete understanding of how their work is going to be exploited and how it does work, and to put it right where it doesn't work. And there's an awful lot of the industry which actually needs now to, we're literally at a watershed, because a watershed is where a stream turns into a river, and that's what we need streaming to do. We need to be at a watershed, and I think COVID has brought this on. But I'm really fascinated to know from both of you who've been extremely accomplished in, you know, I've listened to your music, and your music is very different, but very brilliant and very inspiring. And you say you've been kind of, you know, dragged round the labels. I think this is always an extremely disheartening experience, being dragged around the labels. But I think also there is the onus is now very much the onus is very much on you as the artist or the creator to get 1 million likes on Facebook, get you know, 250,000 Instagram followers, sell 1 million streams yourself, and then it's only then when you've got the kind of stats. So young creators have to spend much more of their time understanding how they can work their own brand, or band, whichever you want to call it, or bland, whichever it may be. I always think when you turn a band into a brand, it should become a bland. But that's just me playing around with words, which is my job. So what do you think about how, you know, how has that been for you? And I don't think it should be disheartening for labels to sort of say, oh no, we're not going to give you a multi-million-pound deal now, because they never do. You know, that's the truth. In this day and age, they don't do that. You know, they wait until you are worth multi-million pounds before they will offer you a multi-million pound deal. So getting from kind of A to B has completely transformed, I think, in the last 10 years. And in some respects, that allows new artists to get into a much stronger position. But in other respects, it's so much more work. And how do you balance? I'll ask Hope first. How do you balance the kind of, you know, the job of kind of doing the job and then keeping the creativity?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think we're in quite an exciting time as independent singer-songwriters, in that I think we've got privileges that people wouldn't have 20, 30 years ago. You know, everything was dictated by labels, and it was so hard to break out and have success without a big conglomerate behind you, basically. So I think, you know, it's an age-old question, like, do I get a label, don't I get a label? And with my experience, it's, you know, I've been mainly independent, and I really love having the freedom of being able to decide what I want to do, what message I want to put out there, what I want to look like. All of those things I think are really empowering and actually create a much more sort of diverse industry and artistry. You know, I'm a bit of a nerd for business things as well, so I don't necessarily have struggle with it. I did my first self-employed tax return a few months ago, and I was so happy. And I get what you're saying. It is hard to balance. It's hard to balance the two sides. You know, as far as I'm concerned, it's 50-50. It's 50% about being an artist and being creative, and 50% being a businesswoman and treating your product as a business. And, you know, I read a load of books, really, really good books about how to do it. I didn't learn that much. I went to college for a bit and there wasn't really that much available. Which I think is what we've been talking about a lot with the Youth Council, and I know Imogen agrees as well, and that in terms of the education system, there's not a huge amount of information out there, especially for young musicians, on how to register as self-employed, doing applications, the business side of being a musician, which is really cool to be able to do that, and to be involved in the more administrative side of making music and releasing music, and with distribution and all those things. It's really, really cool. And there definitely should be more education and awareness for it, so people do have the power to do it and not get messed around by certain companies and lose out on money, or not knowing where, you know, clever little income streams can come from. So I think it's really exciting. I really like being independent. There's always the thing of, oh, it would be great to have a label with 100 grand so I could have a banner up in the Tube. But, you know, I think for me right now, the pros outweigh the cons. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like.
Yeah, Imogen, how do you feel about it? That's a brilliant perspective. So
yeah.
Gives me hope.
Yeah, being an independent musician is hugely empowering. But I think, yeah, like you said, the main attraction of being signed really is like the money side of things. Because while we have a whole plethora of new talent able to come through because we're not relying on labels, a lot of that talent unfortunately comes from money, because you have to have the money in certain areas to be able to commit your time to it. I think I said in my interview, you know, I am a musician, but most of the time I feel like a bartender, because I do have to work quite a lot to sustain myself. And so, you know, I do get to the end of the week and think, what have I done this week that defines me as a musician, you know? So there are a lot of, you know, downsides to being independent in terms of monetary reasons, but there are ways that you can get money and still be an independent musician. I'm extremely fortunate to have been a recipient of a couple of PRS grants, so that gave me the ability to maintain my status as an independent musician. So yeah, there are initiatives out there. I think one of the main points that I've been raising in the Academy is that the initiatives are there, but the awareness perhaps isn't. And so me and Hope have had long conversations about getting this education out to people, out to young people, maybe even, prior to their music education, and just letting everybody know that it is a viable career option. There is a way that you can make it sustainable. But then that said, there comes a bit of a moral dilemma when we're encouraging young talent and telling them that there is this sustainability to be achieved by being independent, and then there are a lot of exploitative avenues like streaming services and like buyouts. So like I said in my quote, I do feel like often we're leading young talent to a cliff edge because we're being like, come on, we can do it, we can all do it, but actually only a few of you can do it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Well, that's what I think we need to sort out now, and I think that's where music's at, because there are all the opportunities for for people to self-release and for that to become a success. But I think there are structural and engineering problems in the way that payment is set up. That means even though if an independent artist, I worked with a fantastic independent artist called Rory Butler, who, and we got 8 million streams on one song, which made about 10 grand or something like that, which was great, and we owned everything. But I have a suspicion that it could probably have made a lot more than that once we've sorted stuff out, and it certainly needs to. It needs to get to the point where if you have 8 million streams, that you can, do quite well on that, because that is quite a significant success, even though it's not, there are some arguments saying that, it's only 10,000 people listening to it 5 times in a month, but that's quite a lot of people really in an audience,
Well, if you think, if it was like a CD, like 8 million CDs that people used to buy from HMV,
yeah,
and it would be like 5-10 quid, it would be like, I never need to release anything again.
No, you're quite right, yeah. Or kind of, the Beatles, who were massive, their album, Rubber Soul, sold 1.6 million albums, which is nowadays doesn't seem like a sort of life-changing experience, but in those days it was world-changing. But where was I going to go on that thread? Also on the kind of you've been very vocal, both of you, about the necessity to kind of make sure that. Oh yeah. Let me take this back, because when in my day when I was a lad, we could go on the dole, and we could I learned long picks. We just all went on the dole, and we practiced for we lived in poverty, but we practiced 8 hours a day for a year before we got good enough. But nowadays it's impossible to do that, so people have to kind of go to college, or they go to or as you say, they work part-time and then do their musicianship part-time, which is much more difficult. But I think the benefits of college are absolutely massive. Everyone that I've worked with that has been to some kind of music college comes out. I work with young people who are better producers than I am, and better singers than I am, and better players than I am, and that's as a result of college. But it's interesting that college doesn't teach the business side of stuff, and that's something that we, I think, as an organisation could really push. But going on from that, I had a conversation with Nadine Shah the other day, who I'm a massive fan of, and I think she's bloody amazing. And she's kind of interested in getting involved with the industry, because she's quite political. And she was saying that when she spoke up on Twitter saying that she wouldn't get, that she was interested in, stepping down from the board of PPL, and Nadine, I'm trying to encourage to go onto the board and put herself up for election to the board of PPL. And she said that she got a tirade of kind of tweets and stuff saying, oh, it's not cool, do you really want to get in with that? And I think we've got to flip that attitude round. I think we've got to make people, because actually being exploited is not cool. And unless you understand your industry, you will be exploited. And we need to start thinking of people like Dr. Dre, who are billionaires, through understanding how to do the industry. I think all new artists have got to be that. But how do you think we can kind of encourage? What do you think we ought to do? Do you think we ought to be forming partnerships with different people and putting out educational videos? And I mean, where do you think we ought to be taking this as the Ivors?
Firstly, I was just thinking about Nadine receiving that tirade about how kind of uncool it is to be part of it. That's what needs to change, basically. If we have representation in these areas, then people will be more likely to want to get involved and actually learn about it.
Exactly.
Age-old, like old man's club. So it's key in the representation. And that's obviously something that me and Hope have been chatting a lot about in terms of the Youth Council and how important that is. And we're definitely in the next few weeks looking to already grow the Youth Council to make it as diverse as possible and representative as possible. Because it is, we do represent all young music creators. So we need to have that representation on our council too. And in terms of getting the education out, we actually, we kind of came up with the idea of perhaps providing some kind of handbook, which would be on our website available to members, kind of tailored to specific areas of the music industry and what you need to know in terms of copywriting and licensing and buyouts and all that education, but kind of put forward in a palatable way. So we're really excited, and it was a good majority vote yes on that in the last Youth Council meeting. I don't know if you want to add more to it, Hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly right. I find Imogen and I basically agree on everything as well. Imogen put it so great the other day when we were talking about the Youth Council, and it's sort of like a microcosm of what the future of the Ivors could be. And the same with all organisations. We've got a really unique opportunity to create a really diverse, supportive environment. And in terms of getting information out there, we had a great meeting with Juliet from Nerve Music, who's got loads of links with Huddersfield Uni, and they were coming to us going how do we educate people who are your age? And we were just so excited that they were coming to us and actually asking how can we educate young people about these really important issues? And we were just sat there so happy that they were asking, and we were being part of a change that could really encourage new talent to be really informed and encouraged when they're making music. So I think it's just more of those things. And the same as well, the Ivors are so great at campaigns and all of these things that help raise awareness. The streaming campaign, that gains loads of traction on social media, which is where all the young people are, which I think raises issues that a lot of people aren't even aware of. People don't necessarily question things when that's just how they are. If it's Spotify royalties and there's not enough there for writers, if that's just the way it is, people often have a hard time, I think, challenging it unless somebody speaks up and goes, hang on, I don't think that's actually how it should be. And I think that's why organisations like the Ivors are brilliant, because you've got the clout and reputation of this big organisation saying, we need to call these people out and stand up for creators.
Yeah.
So I think it's just more of that.
And in terms of
there's an interesting comment on the chat room by someone called Neil. Hi Neil, thank you for your comment, which was that there is music business taught at colleges, but there isn't a kind of integration between the kind of creative courses don't integrate. So maybe we need to go out and kind of encourage. I think it's that it's not cool stuff. I think there is a kind of really sort of anachronistic idea of creators that you should be just creative you know, and sit there and play the guitar and sing and let somebody else take care of the business. But I don't think that can carry on, because I think that's part of the problem. Yeah. But can we, going on to, I'm sort of conscious of time, can we listen to both? I think we've got your tracks and your lyrics, because I want to, both of them are superb.
Tarek, could we run with Hopes first? Thanks.
Alphabetically.
I've grown a thicker skin, star view of my oxygen. Either love me or leave me be. Oh, I tried to be pure, I tried to be sweet. Let's cut the shit that ain't always me. I am more than shoelaces and pretty pink dresses. I'm wild, I'm wild. My love for you has let you in. My body is the sanctum of my heart. You should kneel. Show me the respect that I deserve, or I'll strike it down with words. I will laugh while you burn. Keep my heart for what it's worth. I'm never half-hearted. There's pain in my pride.
Thanks. Bloody amazing.
Thank you.
Bloody amazing.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Okay, can we listen to Imogen's now, and then I've got some questions to ask about how both of them were kind of written and what sort of mood and weather, you know, because I'm very aware for. I'll talk about it afterwards. Let's listen to him.
I wish I were you, but my eyes, they watch you move, so free in your cage, so free in your cage. I wish I were with you. Tears fall as I watch you move, to soak in your shower time.
Absolute banger.
Yeah, both of them are absolutely bloody amazing, and so both of you are kind of, you know, extraordinary. It was. I mean, I have to admit, actually, I came to your music after I'd come to your CVs, both of you. I'd sort of read about you, and then I thought, oh, I better listen to what you do. I had stalked you on YouTube, both of you, but because that's what YouTube's good for. Sorry, that wasn't meant to be as creepy as my joke as it sounds. But you know, when you're checking people out, you can go on and find people. But both of you, in very different ways, are you know, clearly sort of gifted. And how how did you record both of those? I mean, is the Imogen first? Sorry, is the loop on that? Is it a loop or is it real drums? And is the sorry?
Just yeah, kind of a mix of both. So that song was actually born in a rehearsal room. I was putting together a performance for my degree, and
a performance for your dolly?
Degree.
For who? Degree. Sorry, I'm a record producer. I'm hard of hearing. Yeah.
And I was a minute short of the degree show then, so I was in a bit of panic, and I came up with a drum, played it to my drummer. I was like, "You play that, you do that, you play that bass note, I'll sing." And then I had backing singers at the time, and they were great with harmony, and they just did it. And that trumpet was improvised initially, and it just all came together so quickly. And so that's why it's less of a kind of whole song and more of a moment, which I feel kind of reflects the content of it anyway. So it worked out quite perfectly for me. And I'm very proud of its creation, because it was a different way of writing than I'd ever done before. I usually write at the piano, and that was just to a drum loop. So in recording terms, that initial drum loop was actually the recording from the rehearsal looped, and then my producer played drums later on just to build it up. So it's a mixture of both.
So cool.
And Hope, was yours proper band, or did you do? I mean, was that because you have a kind of on YouTube? I've seen you with a very cool band.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it was the same guys that I met when I was like 14, 15, who were all absolutely lovely working session musicians. They're all dads, and I love them very much. So yeah, a lot of the songs I write, I mean, to be honest, it's a while ago now I wrote that. I'm working on new stuff, but yeah, I sat playing guitar and wrote just that really simple, like the chorus first, and then it all just sort of came together. It was I don't know, in terms of writing, I feel like each song varies for me. Like it will either be quite a quick process and it will come out in one go, or it will take a while to work on the same song in lots of different stages. But it was quite a quick one, and I wrote it and then edited it a little bit and then sent it to the boys, and I was like, I've written this, and I was thinking about putting an EP together at the time, and they were like, yeah. They all really liked it. So I mean, in terms of my recording experience, it's mainly been with those lads, and we've just been in the same room, and they've very kindly taken my direction of, I want that to sound like that, and that to sound like that, I want less of that. And they're all really, really just genuinely lovely guys who listen to what I'm thinking in my head. And yeah, we just did a few takes all together in the live room, and then my guitarist did some overdubs of the, like towards the end, there's sort of like quite a like Pulp Fiction guitar in it that goes da 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 da. So those were like loads of overdubs and stuff, like the little details that I did. But yeah, just sort of all one go really.
And what kind? I mean, in a proper kind of recording studio, was that in a proper recording studio, or do you do, you know, because actually sort of getting a band in a room is quite rare, and recording a band in a room nowadays, because studios just don't have the space for it, because most of us just work at home or in little writing rooms. So was that in a proper studio?
Yeah, it was in it. My friend had a big like live room, and then a little control room, which actually used to be an old stables actually. So yeah, he'd sort of converted it into a live room. So yeah, I mean, we've been recording another, like a single coming out later this year, and we've been doing it remotely, which has been really weird, because I'm used to like them being in the room and being able to like look at each other and do it in a few days. You know, we'd all just stay over there and hang out, have a good hang. So it's been an interesting challenge trying to do it from all of our little recording setups from home. But I'm lucky in that I've got a studio in my garden, that I sort of like converted my dad's old painting studio into a music studio. So I'm lucky I've got that. But yeah, it's been weird. But that's Corona times for you, I think.
Yeah, I think it's been there. So I want to talk about that exactly, the chemistry of kind of virtual working in a minute. But Imogen, was yours done in a kind of proper college studio, or was it done sort of at home, or what kind of environment was it recorded in? And when you say that you were working with other people that were on your course as well, was that? I've always I'm a terrible kind of control freak, and I'm trying to stop learning how to be a control freak, because my favourite artist is David Bowie, and apparently not only was he a genius at writing songs, but he was a genius at letting people, bringing in brilliant people and saying, go to town, do whatever you want to do, and letting go of the song and letting the sound develop itself. And that sounds a bit like you were doing there.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. It was actually the most liberating thing to do ever, was to get these people in a room. A lot of them were at Goldsmiths, half of them were, but actually the brass players, I had a baritone sax and a trumpet who still play with me. And we actually all went to school together in Newcastle, but they both came to study down here, one at Guildhall and one at Trinity. So I called on them, which was just really lovely to kind of end my degree, kind of where I'd started as well, because we used to play together when we were much younger. But yeah, I would say that's actually one of the most defining moments in my creative life, was delegating and, letting go of the idea that everything that I do has to be perfect. Especially when you've got instruments in your band that you don't know how to play. So how would you write the best thing for them, So yeah, honestly, since that moment, writing has been a lot more free for me. There's still always the pressure and the self-doubt, but as I came from kind of writing at the piano and performing at the piano, it was just a solo thing for so long, actually getting people around you who, quite frankly, are better musicians than you. It's actually so liberating, and you kind of give the song what it deserves, which is, a bit of new breath. So yeah, that was really amazing thing to do. And yeah, in terms of recording, it was a voice note on my phone from our rehearsals at Goldsmiths, and then I took that into, I've been really lucky to have access to a kind of basement studio in someone's house that has been kind of refurbished, and it's a really great little place in Battersea. It's not, I don't think it's commercially used yet. I think they probably have plans to do that, but it's just a really lovely little oasis. And we recorded the rest of that and the rest of the body of work that's yet to come out there as well. And I found that I've been into bigger studios. I've done a bit of recording at RAC actually, because the producer was an engineer there as well. And I love that, but also I do find, I don't like the pressure of having quite a strict time limit, and also knowing that you're paying for it as well. I find that all quite, I find it a lot of pressure. I end up over singing or overplaying and not being super happy with what comes out. So having access to a studio where you can go of your own accord has been really amazing.
I think that is one of the kind of most liberating things, and it leads to incredibly interesting music, the fact that people have got the kind of time in their own bedrooms to do stuff, and you can, you're never going to be able to get a Led Zeppelin drum sound in your own bedroom, but I've tried, but it doesn't work. You have to go somewhere like RAC, or a decent room, but you can sort of spend time perfecting things and experimenting, which is much more vital. So I've started back. Wait, can you mute your things? Everybody. On the I'm sort of going off on a slight side road here, but how have you been doing any kind of virtual working? Because I tried doing a bit of virtual working and just couldn't do it, because I think music is so much about kind of chemistry. And I noticed actually in your, I'm going to say this because it's a cute little anecdote, but in your lyrics, I wish I were you, birds murmur when they watch you move. And I remember going with, we live near Glastonbury, and you can go to the Somerset Levels, and every autumn the birds do huge murmurations, and it's incredible in the sky. And it was a really drizzly day, and I was sat with my kind of 7-year-old daughter who'd just come out of school, and we were watching the birds murmur, and I was going, oh, it's amazing, isn't it? Look at that, how they all move in the same time. And she said, yes, it's a bit like a choir, only they're flying instead of singing. And I sort of burst into tears. But that is, it's one of those times that it's only in music, that, or maybe in sport as well, that musicians work in that all create one shape with, with multiple people. And I guess that's where the word harmony comes from. But I find it very difficult to do it virtually. I think you can get on really well virtually, but personally, I've found there's a sort of lack of chemistry, something to do with kind of creating, and certainly with co-writing is to do with, it's not something that you can communicate by words, music. Have you been finding that?
Well, I actually really enjoyed going into quarantine with sort of like an unlimited amount of free time. Don't get me wrong, I really missed gigs, and it's nice that a few are coming back now, but I was quite excited because I just sort of set up my studio, and I was really excited to get into it. I don't know if anyone else is, but I'm such a, in terms of writing, I'm a nocturnal writer. It really only comes at night. So I was quite excited because a really good producer friend of mine, Luke Brooking, he just lent me his Rode mic. So I had a really nice vocal mic, and then I'd borrowed an iMac off someone, and then managed to download Logic, not illegally, and just sat in my studio and sort of taught myself the basics of how to record and stuff, which is something that I hadn't done before. It always been done for me, and it was really nice to be able to teach myself those skills, so I knew how to do it, and I could be a bit more dictatorial isn't the word, just knowledgeable about how to use software for music creation. And this song that we're remotely doing, luckily I co-wrote it with my guitarist before quarantine happened, Seb Wesson, so the song part was done, and I think it's a song that can quite easily lend, the parts are quite obvious, so in terms of the guys, and because we have played with each other for so long, I think they knew what I wanted, and it was a case of sending them the demo that I'd done with MIDI drums and a MIDI drum part that I'd been okay, Matt, can you do this? I don't want any ride, I just want snare, blah blah blah. It was a really weird experience, and I really miss playing with them and recording in that way. But also I think for me it was a really good challenge for my own creative skill to be able to record it in that way. So we'll see. I mean, we might get it finished and it might sound really weird. But I guess it's kind of nice to come out of this crazy historical time with a single that I recorded within it. And that is always going to be, a piece of music that I did with them. Even though we were miles apart, we still managed to do it. And I think that's going to be cool. So yeah, it's been really weird. And the same with my teaching as well. I teach kids, and that was hilarious because they'd set up the little camera, and some of them did really well, and some of them I just had the top of their head to go with whilst I was going, yeah, here's the C major scale. I can't see you playing it, so let's just hope you are.
Wow. No, I think it's Imogen. That's really good. Technology is so liberating in so many ways, and I think this once we get more kind of fluent at you know, corresponding in a 2D way, I think it's going to lead to incredible kind of adventurousness in music. But Imogen, have you been locking yourself away during lockdown and kind of coming up with, you know, the great lost novel that you now have time to come up with before? Or did you find it? I mean, a lot of people, I think there's been a lot of expectation from within the industry that, oh, it's great, this will be a huge artistic renaissance because all these poor starving artists will be locked away writing great songs, which I think is kind of actually being locked in your flat. You need some input.
Yeah, I think, you know, I don't know if I speak on behalf of all creators, but we're quite emotional people because that's what we go off. So actually, I found it hard to do anything for a long time because I was just in shock and, you know, in panic at the whole situation. So for a number of weeks, I found myself really unable to kind of process any of that in a creative way. So yeah, I was just kind of pottering around, like expecting the end of the world. So for a while it was difficult, but it happens quite a lot to me where there's like a crisis or something traumatic happens, or, you know, something monumental happens, and I don't process it for a while, and then months later it comes out in music and in poetry and writing. So I'm kind of got to that stage now where I'm kind of processing what we've all been through and what we're going through, and it's coming out bit by bit. But what I was really lucky to kind of have going on during lockdown was I was doing quite a lot of featured stuff. So I was asked to do top lines, and I was also asked to produce a couple of things as well, which was really exciting challenge for me because I haven't really tried my hand at producing that much. So it gave me good challenge to be doing kind of remixes and stuff. So while I wasn't doing a lot of my own stuff to begin with, I was still like exercising that muscle because I was still engaging and working on other people's stuff, which I really like doing. If you hit a creative block, is, you know, to keep going, but the pressure's off, it's not your stuff. So that was really great. And also I did do a couple of virtual sessions, which was really interesting because, you know, in sessions you see the head of the producer at the back of their head while you sit on the sofa, basically. And this was, you know, seeing their face and seeing their project because they'd share the screen. And yeah, it was cool. I did find it quite alien at first, but then by the second time round, I kind of got accustomed to it. And I must say, it wasn't something that we wrote from scratch in those sessions. It was kind of adding to something we'd come up with whilst we were together. So I don't know if it would have been quite different if it was from scratch. But yeah, it's been an odd time. I did a couple live streams as well, which has been really weird because that's kind of like inviting, you know, 100 people into your bedroom. So yeah, I did a few of those to raise some money for the NHS, and yeah, it was interesting. It's definitely taken a lot of kind of acclimatizing too. But,
did you find it weird not having like applause at the end?
I'll like finish a song and then be like,
yeah, that's it.
I mean, really annoyingly, because I could carry on for bloody hours having this. There's loads more that I want to ask you about, specifically about kind of live streaming, I think, which is something which is about to kind of break open as a completely new form of music. And you see, I would argue that live streaming is totally about the performer and the song. It's the piece of music. So I think all the revenue from that ought to go direct to the performer and the song. And you know, you're not playing a record. I don't, you know, but anyway, but that's me getting into the nitty-gritty of things. I'm so incredibly excited to know what you and the Youth Council are going to do, and the Academy Network is going to do, because I think it's absolutely key. Well, one of the things that's always wrong about the industry, and I find myself on the other side of it, is that it's you know, people in their 40s telling people in their 20s how music should be made. Hopefully we can flip this the other way around, so it's people in their 20s and their teens telling people in their 40s how the music industry should work. So this is fantastic. I think Wes wants to open it up to a Q&A session. It's not long enough, this. We need to do another one. And I desperately need to meet all the youth council members as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely sort that out, Crispin. Thank you for that. Well, thank you for a lovely conversation, both Hope, Imogen and Crispin. I am just going to, before we go to the Q&A, I just got a little section about what the Youth Council is, what the Youth Network is, and our new initiative of mentoring. Just in case you didn't know, the Ivors Academy Youth Network is our initiative to engage with the UK community of young creators with events and music industry advice. The network helps to connect young creators working in various music genres to build a strong community. The Youth Network is also a hub of partnerships with universities, colleges and non-academic organisations to further empower and educate young music creators. Through our Youth Network Council, there is the direct opportunity for young creators to express their concerns and experiences of starting out in our industry and have their voice listened to and heard right at the top of the Ivors Academy at board level. One of the Youth Network Council and Youth Network's key support organisations is the Ivors Academy's Trust. The Academy Trust underpins the Youth Network programme of events and projects and helps us to engage and support a wide range of emerging young creators. The Trust also is instrumental in assisting with issues of access to Youth Network, to the Youth Network and other learning and education initiatives. The Trust now offers bursaries to help remove financial barriers to participation. A recent development by the Ivors Academy Trust has seen the Ivors Academy itself, together with Help Musicians, launch a new mentoring scheme for emerging music creators. This will start in September this year. The programme will match 50 mentees with 50 suitable mentors within the Ivors Academy's membership, combined with invited mentors from the wider music community. Applications are open now, so please do apply if you want to get on board. Until, I think applications close on the 12th of August. So please do go to the Ivors Academy website or contact our membership department for further information. Tariq, can you just add those details to our chat box? That'll be great, thanks a lot. And if anybody listening wants to join the Youth Network as an individual, a partner organisation or an affiliate organisation, please do contact me. My name's Wesley John. I'm the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Manager at the Ivors Academy, at my email address, which is wesley@ivorsacademy.com. Okay, I'll now be opening for some questions. And I see that we have another one from Neil Maley. Maybe I could ask, the writing and recording process change, does the writing and recording process change much from starting out in a small studio and perhaps with less experienced producers than being signed or going into a big studio with session musicians? To everyone.
Well, if I might, I'm not sure that it does these days. You know, I think actually more and more big professional records that are in the charts are actually made in pretty small studios. You know, it's a very different experience going into a great big commercial studio, but there are so few of them now. There are literally a kind of handful of studios in London, whereas there used to be tons of them, and they're no longer existing. It's as you know, both Hope and Imogen pointed out, actually having the clock running used to be a pretty terrifying thing when, you know, you're trying to make a record and you knew that every cigarette you was making cost the packet of a cigarettes in records to actually have one of those, you know, just the time, 10 minutes to smoke a cigarette was costing your band another 3,000 albums you had to sell in order to pay for that cigarette. So that put an awful lot of pressure on it. Sometimes the pressure was really beneficial because it made you, as somebody said, overperform and kind of give your best to it. And I think in those original days when you listen to the kind of passion of those Motown records, where it was somebody who had, okay, you've got 5 hours to record this song, get in there and play your heart out. You know, but I think certainly an awful lot of records, you know, I've made things that have been on #1 albums in our spare room upstairs in our house, you know, and that's the way, mind you, it did have, you know, it was a nice microphone and stuff, but that's the way it works now. I don't think it's kind of becoming vastly different, and I think the use, as Imogen said, the use of session musicians is an amazing thing. I'm a really second-rate musician. I play everything very badly, but I'm good at making up tunes and words. And so, but sometimes you desperately need that, you know, so you have an idea in your head, and it is actually the musicians that can make it so much bigger and so much better than you would ever have imagined it. So, but that's my feeling. What do you reckon, Imogen?
I just sort of, in that question, it was not complicate the writing credit. And it kind of goes back to our education. People need to stand up with people and people, and they do get the credit that they deserve when they're collaborating on any kind of piece of music. But also, yeah, I would say, due to my kind of moderate experience of small studios and then big studios, I definitely think my writing changes, and that's what's been a really interesting product of lockdown, because my writing over lockdown has become quite insular and lo-fi and singing quite quietly, whereas if I was in rack studios, I might want to belt out a huge number. So I think it does change.
Hope?
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I'd say I have more experience in smaller studios and writing at home or with other musician mates in their house or my house. You know, the limited experience I have had going to sort of big professional studios, I saw like room 1 and 2 in Abbey Road, and you know, it would be incredible to work there, but then equally I think, I don't know, it's a bit like what Imogen was saying earlier. I think we're all very fragile beings as creatives, and in a lot of ways it sort of has to be like the perfect storm in order to make you feel comfortable and to bring that sort of magic out. And if it was something like Abbey Road, I don't know whether I'd feel, I mean, if Abbey Road's watching, I'd love to go. I think, but there's, you know, something to be said for having your own space and knowing your equipment really well and having a vibe. You know, it's a creative piece of work, and I don't know, I think there's pros and cons to both. It would be incredible to work in, you know, a really established studio, but equally I think I definitely feel the pressure of, I'm paying, there's a time limit, all the people that have recorded in this room before me, you know, so I think that, yeah, there's pros and cons.
I've just got another question. Oh, sorry, Crispin. Another question from Mary Winter Harris, directed to both Imogen and Hope. Do you have any plans to combat gender divide and inequality within the music industry?
Yeah.
Hugely so. Yeah, I mean, the Youth Council itself as it stands is pretty female heavy, which is good. But also we are, I think, in the process actually as an academy, looking at partnerships with organisations such as Girls Irate, especially in light of the Black Lives Matter movement, focusing on Black Girls Irate. And there's a myriad of different organisations I'd love to partnership with, like She Said So, which is a global network for women and minority gender in music, and She Writes is an all-female platform for songwriters. So yeah, lots of work to be done, but I'm really excited about potentially collaborating with a lot of female-led organisations, really. And yeah, you don't need to worry, me and Hope are raging feminists, so yeah.
Hope, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, just reiterating what Imogen said, that we've had so many plans. We're both very passionate about this, so love talking about what we can do. I mean, there's been so many great reports as well that the Ivors has sort of shed light on. The seat at the table report was brilliant about how there were it was 0% organisations that had Black female board members,
Yes.
which I think is a really good thing to sort of think about why that is, and putting research into it and resources into changing that. And I think, you know, on our small scale, what we can do with the Youth Council and making it as diverse as possible, we're both really passionate about, you know, and even on our level to be, you know, in our 20s as female singer-songwriters, but being on a board is really, really cool. And, you know, something that might not have happened 30, 40 years ago,
No,
maybe even less. Yeah, so yeah, we're definitely raging feminists, ready to go.
I also, completely unqualified as I am to comment on this as a kind of middle-aged, middle-class white bloke, but I also think that one of the things that actually the music industry will benefit from massively is an input from other voices. I think it's been too male and too middle class and too middle age for way too long. And I think actually a lot of the things that the music industry needs to put right in order to ensure the music continues to flourish, and not necessarily flourishes in the way that the industry thinks it will, but allows itself the shape and the oxygen to grow into something that is more exciting than it is already. You know, I think actually, you know, women's voices, Black people's voices, you know, this is what the industry now needs. And I think we are at a point where we have to make this happen in the industry, because if it doesn't happen now, it never will. And that'll be really retrogressive.
I couldn't agree with you more, Crispin. I couldn't agree with you more. Unfortunately, I need to wrap things up this afternoon. I've had such a wonderful and inspiring conversation with Hope, Imogen and Crispin. It's been absolutely fantastic. I would like to thank Hope, Imogen and Crispin for giving up their time with us. And thank you to our audience for joining us. A huge thank you goes to our Ivors Academy colleague, Tariq, for being the producer this afternoon. Many, many thanks, Tariq. Please join us again for our next Creators Conversation webinar event featuring the young media writers of the Ivors Academy Youth Network Council, Ellie Parker, Jake Morgan, Joe Ranger, and Tom Prince. This conversation will be hosted by the chair of our Ivors Academy Media Committee, Mark Ayres, on Wednesday, the 12th of August at 3 p.m. Hope to see you all then, and many thanks. See you.